The Kremlin acknowledged the ATACMS strikes and promised revenge. And why Medvedev is threatening the whole world again. Let's talk to Dmytro Gordon, journalist. My name is Olha Bilan. Dmitry, hello. Olga, hello. Russian Defense Ministry acknowledged the ATACMS strikes against the S-400 and the airfield in Kursk region. Promised to avenge Ukraine for this. Meanwhile, Russian Z-bloggers are actively indignant that the hazel or cedar or hawthorn trees that Putin recently boasted about didn't scare anyone. Foreign missiles have been flying and continue to fly into Russian territory. What revenge for ATACMS? Why has Russia officially recognized it already? I think these missiles are called Skvoreshnik. Nuttall. You can give lungs like that to Putin. I've said somewhere before that I would just call this old one a hazel, because he's become a caricature of himself, just a parody. He used to seem formidable, not Ivan, but still I especially remember that self-willed face. I'll never forget his performance on the first day of the full-scale invasion at dawn. When I turned on the TV after 3 explosions outside my windows, I saw that face full screen, where he was smugly reclining in his chair, telling me what he was about to do to the Ukrainian fascists. And now he's funny, and there's no trace of his former bravery. A funny old man nicknamed Peanut. What they're running, it's just, it's also, you can't make idiots out of smart people. It's punishable. If they thought that everyone in the United States of America and Europe is so stupid that they don't realize what the real military power, if you can call it power, of Russia is, they were very wrong.
Тоже нельзя делать идиотов из умных людей. Это наказуемо. Если они думали и считали, что в Соединенных Штатах Америки и в Европе настолько все уже одурели, что не понимают, с кем имеют дело, не понимают, какова реальная военная мощь, если можно назвать это словом мощь фашистской России.
All warheads have long been counted in the West. All start. Everything Russia has is known in the West. Thanks to the fact that in the West, they make money called dollars and euros, which the Russians love so much, and which for dollars and euros will tell all the most important state secrets. So there are no secrets, really. And the fact that he launched this $100 billion dummy to make everyone go crazy with fear is his fatal mistake. Well, a bolt flew in. Well, it hit a boiler house in Dnipro, the boiler house of the Yuzhmash plant. Well, the Yuzhmash plant, do you realize what Yuzhmash is? It was the largest missile manufacturing plant in the world during the Soviet era.
Да он в советское время был самым крупным заводом в мире по производству ракет, межконтинентальным.
Khrushchev was told during the Cuban Missile Crisis that we were making several of these missiles a day, a specific number. And Khrushchev told Kennedy that we were producing these missiles like hotcakes. Simple. And he wanted to hit such a powerful plant with this hazel or birdhouse, where there is a huge territory, where people travel by buses, and there used to be streetcars. Try to walk around the factory and you'll get lost. They've lost touch with reality. You let the hazel tree out? You thought the whole world would freak out and Ukraine would surrender? No, of course not. He'll have more hazels, but Ukraine won't capitulate. What does he want? To destroy the country.
Ну, запустит на них. У нас огромная страна. Ну, запустит он орешники. Что он еще запустит? Что он хочет? Разрушить Украину?
It won't succeed. That he wants to force us into peace or on his terms with the help of these nut jobs. It won't succeed. No one is afraid of him. He is laughed at. He is ridiculous. Here is one of the most important results of almost 3 years of war with this Nazi undercountry. Dmitry, on the ATACMS missiles, do you think we should expect Putin not the Russian Defense Ministry, to react at all to the U.S. missile strikes. After nuts, he broadcast for 2 days in a row showing how great he is, and then he's back in the bunker. Basically, we haven't seen any reaction yet. So, I don't think I'm very sober about things, by the way. I don't think that Putin is sitting in a bunker, as we probably wish he were. He's not sitting in a bunker. He lives quietly at his dacha. What's the name of this place? God, I forget. There are many. He has many of these places. No, he has his favorite place near Moscow. Well, it doesn't matter. I think he's not even hiding there, because he understands perfectly well. There are international agreements. He understands perfectly well that the West will not hit his location with missiles, and Ukraine won't either, unless he does something stupid. If he does something stupid, they will hit everywhere, and somewhere ATACMS and Storm Shadow will continue to fly at Russia. Now they'll give us something else. I'm not going to say what. It's all going to fly over there to that stinking country. That's why, well, he came out talking with a smug look on his face about how we have Hazel and take it into mass production and so on. You should first establish car production in your own country, not birdhouses. Establish car production so that not some ugly thing comes off the assembly line, but at least a normal car. Because when we see the stories about the famous bukhanka that are now coming off the assembly line, when we see how the seams are welded, how everything is rusty, how the gearbox, if you move it forward, it rests against the panel. This is an ugly country that has lost the thread of scientific and technological progress and is not capable of anything. What's a hazelnut? They can't release a car, they can't release airplanes, because look how many accidents there are with the dry superjet. And this despite the fact that it's all on imported parts. Fires, domestic accidents, casualties, airplane crashes, casualties. They're going to have everything going down soon. They're going to be screwed. You have to realize that. We need to push it down a little bit. They're coming off already, and economically they're coming off first, but we'll maybe talk about that some more. Let's talk, because it seems to me that the only one who was scared of the Hazel launch is the Russian ruble. According to the investing service, the official dollar exchange rate in Russia is as follows. Exceeded 105 rubles. It's almost 107. On Dmytro Gordon's Telegram channel, it was written that the only one who was scared of the Hazel is the ruble. It's true, really. By the way, friends, subscribe to Dmytro Gordon's Telegram channel. It's the best Telegram channel in Ukraine, the fastest growing. You'll be happy. All the news is instantaneous there, just analytics too. So the ruble is falling for a reason. They have very serious problems. I will try to outline them literally in 2 words. Look, first, there is a tangible shortage of workers due to the following problems. Skilled labor is scarce, always has been. All the best have already left for the West. Those who can work with their heads and hands, they have left. When they saw all this return to the Soviet Union, people decided they didn't want that and went to the West to earn and live normally. That's the first thing. The second is how many people died and were maimed in the SWO. 700,000 people already. That's no joke. Plus the negative demographics. And migrants are not allowed in the right numbers because the FSB reports to Putin that many of them are linked to ISIS, and such ideas become a reality, as was the case in Crocus City Hall.
количестве, которое нужно в страну, потому что в России вдруг оказалось, ФСБ доложила Путину, что, оказывается, многие мигранты, таджики, узбеки, они приезжают вместе с идеями ИГИЛа. И потом эти идеи притворяют в жизнь. Мы видели трагедию в Крокус-Сити-Холле и понимаем, что существует внутри России разветвленная сеть ИГИЛа и прочих экстремистских организаций.
Of course, the FSB took the head because migrants are migrants. But if they do things like this in cold blood, it's even worse. They just stopped letting in migrants in the numbers needed. In addition, it turned out that in the Moscow suburbs, classes in secondary schools in some regions are dominated by children of migrants who cannot even speak Russian. It turned out that migrants settle in ghettos, which women are afraid to walk past, and children too. They rape women there, hooliganize, and so on. That is, it has turned into a severe problem for Russia. In addition, there are countries such as Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, and other prosperous countries that also need migrants. And they pay Central Asians, former Soviet republics, much more money than Russia can offer, so Russia is losing the competition. Finally, a very important point, because of which Russia has a big systemic problem: the outflow of qualified personnel, the scientific and technical intelligentsia and the working class, the outflow to the military-industrial complex. Putin sets a task. We need to try to compete with the West in the production of military equipment. We need to work in 3 shifts. We have a shortage of everything, so we turn to North Korea, Iran, and others. We need to produce, improve, and modernize. But for this, we need people. In order to attract them, they started offering big money from the state budget to the military-industrial complex. If in other industries they pay 200 rubles per hour, they can't afford it. Then in the military-industrial complex, 300 rubles. He, of course, takes his stuff and moves on to another production. What about metallurgy? What about other industries? What about the agricultural sector? That's where the big problems begin. Against the background of inflation, against the background of rising prices for absolutely everything, dense feeling. Against the backdrop of reduced imports due to sanctions, Russia's secondary sanctions against those who circumvented these sanctions, against those countries, against the backdrop of the fact that sanctions have already been imposed even against Gazprom Bank, and people cannot make payments at all. That is, look how they are being driven under the plinth. Against the background, of course, of the discount rate, which rose to 21%, and in December they forecast 23%. You realize that the main industries are all borrowed. And what kind of loans can be taken when the discount rate is so high? Where is the cost of production? How to reach the cost of production? How to reach profit? In short, it's all a huge clod of problems that have accumulated, and it's already rolling like a snowball down the mountain. Not down the hill, down the mountain. This is all going to kill the Russian economy, especially against the backdrop of 3 beautiful words from President-elect Trump. Drill, drill, drill. He will drill wells. He will produce lots and lots of American oil. And all this against the backdrop of agreements with Saudi Arabia, the largest oil producer in the world. And that will exacerbate the drop in oil prices. And falling oil prices are money for Putin. He fights. If he doesn't have money, he can't fight, and the oil industry gives him money. If the oil industry stops profiting, that's it. The nuts are off. Therefore, realizing this, having analyzed the current situation and the immediate situation that will happen in the future, Putin needs to negotiate quickly. He is chaotically trying to tear off a little more territory so that he has more trump cards. More, but that's before you die. You can't breathe. You can't breathe before you die. Well, if you take another 100, 200, 500 kilometer squares of Ukrainian territory, what will that do to you in global terms? You have lost. The past has lost to the future. You have no chance. Give up. On the negotiations, the Washington Post writes that Biden's reversal of his previous policy allowing Western missiles to hit targets on Russian territory. The provision of anti-personnel mines to Ukraine was partly aimed at strengthening its position in potential negotiations with Russia. Do you agree that the current U.S. President Joe Biden is rushing to strengthen Ukraine's position before potential negotiations with Russia and before Donald Trump takes office? Why did Biden decide to take such a step? I absolutely agree. You know what? That it's a shame that Biden didn't take these steps sooner. It's a shame. We paid for it with the lives of our best heroes, because the best always die, and the best have already died for our independence, for our freedom, for our honor. I don't understand why it couldn't have been decided with Putin right away. I don't understand. What a shame it wasn't done. Well, if not in February or March 2022, well then it's been so long, gosh, almost 3 years. Well, couldn't it have been done? What do I think now? Of course, Putin wants to weaken the front runner. Of course there will be negotiations. Let's put it this way.
Конечно, Путина хотят ослабить перед переговорами. Конечно, переговоры будут, давайте так.
Everyone understands this. There's already a smell of negotiations in the air. Of course there will be negotiations. Of course. Just as Putin wants to take more plushies, the Americans want to take more plushies, and we want to take more plushies so that we have something to bargain with. But about Trump, I have my own opinion. I think that Biden and Trump have absolutely agreed on Ukraine. It is impossible that Biden is now chaotically supporting Ukraine because he realizes that Trump will come and cancel everything. No, they agreed. They each have their own interests. They sat down, two nice grandfathers in the White House, put the cards on the table. This is what I want, and this is what I want. And what do you want? I want this. They shuffled the cards and came to the conclusion, let's give it to Ukraine. That's the one Putin wants. Look, even if they say that Trump is afraid of Putin, well, you have to become the second-time president of the greatest country in the history of mankind and show that you are afraid of someone. It's ridiculous. He won't make concessions to Putin. It's ridiculous. It doesn't stand up to any criticism. He will steer his theme. And note what speaks in favor of my theory about Trump and Biden's arrangement. Biden authorized ATACMS strikes on Russian territory, gave anti-personnel mines. Ukraine is already striking ATACMS. And Biden also authorized Storm Shadow strikes on Russian territory because the American parts and guidance are also American. Why? And Trump is silent. But if he disagreed, he would have said by now, I'm against it. It's an outrage. I'll be there on January 20th. I have an inauguration, but I'll cancel the whole thing. No, you can't do that, Biden. You're wrong. No words against it. We don't hear from Trump. That's just an argument in favor of my theory that they agreed on everything. So yes, I'm still looking at the Russian reaction, the cows of the official TV channels, Russian public figures and big officials, but it's not that they're not thrilled with Trump, they're outraged by his behavior. So I think things are going to be very good for us and very bad for Russia. By the way, The director of the Foreign Intelligence Service said that Russia categorically rejects options to freeze the war against Ukraine. The Russian leader's abettor, Vladimir Putin, cynically added that Russia wants a firm peace around Ukraine for years to come. Cynically put, that's putting it mildly. But how should we regard such statements? And by the way, why did Naryshkin say that? Because he hasn't been in the info poll for a long time. We remember how he made some statement before Putin. I don't remember which one. Maybe you will remember. Look, here you say Naryshkin. It was a meeting of the Russian Security Council before the full-scale attack on Ukraine when he did not know what to say, because he asked the opinion of the members of the Security Council, not about the attack on Ukraine, but about the recognition, the recognition of the so-called DNR and LNR. These are parody characters who have one road to go, to Gaga. They are not to be feared, they are funny, they are all funny. So when Medvedev writes something or Naryshkin says something, don't take it to heart. Not just close, don't take it at all. Empty places, don't pay attention to them. The place you brought up is Dmitry Medvedev, because the rumors that Western officials are considering the option according to which it's not even a place. It's not even a place. You can't even call it a place. This is alcoholic delirium after another binge. Medvedev has traditionally threatened Western countries with nuclear war.
Поэтому, когда что-то пишет Медведев или когда что-то заявляет Нарышкин, да, не принимайте это близко к сердцу, не то что близко к сердцу, вообще не принимайте. Это пустые места, не обращайте на них внимания.
Дмитрий, но еще о одном пустом месте, о котором вы вспомнили, это о Дмитрии Медведеве, потому что слухи о том, что западные чиновники рассматривают вариант, согласно которому...
Это даже не место, Оля, это даже не место. Его даже местом назвать нельзя.
Да.
Это алкоголическое какое-то недоразумение.
Вот, и после запоя он вышел с заявлением, после того, как появилась информация о том, что Украине могут передать ядерное оружие, вынудили Дмитрия Медведева обеспокоиться.
It's probably hard to count the number of times this has happened. But do you think Medvedev takes into account that Western countries have nuclear weapons and could destroy Russia? If the Kremlin reacts to the discussion of giving Ukraine nuclear weapons,
Получается, если кремлевские прислужники реагируют на вероятное обсуждение в США
so they're afraid of it,
ядерного оружия, значит, они верят в это и, соответственно, боятся этого.
When I hear that Medvedev has come out of a binge, I strongly disagree. He is not coming out of it, judging by his posts, actions, and so on. It's a misunderstanding. Look at Medvedev. Just look at him visually. Nevertheless, you have to, look, a small dwarf figure with a disproportionately large head. This is a man who from childhood was tormented by a huge number of complexes about his unsleek build, who all his life tried to prove to those who offended him in childhood, probably to those who thought that he was something different. He was trying to prove his worth.
Который всю свою жизнь пытался доказать тем, кто его в детстве обижал наверняка, тем, кому казалось...
And all of this comes from childhood, all dictated by the way you spent your childhood years. Medvedev seemed liberal to me at one time, and not only to me, to many people. Well, this KGB man, the gloomy Putin, yes, that's what it is now, probably. Well, what is it now, probably? Then it turned out that he is a corrupter. We saw the movie He Is Not Your Diamond, which Navalny's foundation released, and all his pursers were arrested. Medvedev, the Magomedov brothers, and so on. And he is trying to prove by all means that he is holier than the Pope. That is, if Putin speaks tough, Medvedev speaks super tough, so that everyone in Russia can see, I am my own. Don't touch me. I am my own. I will do a lot of good. Please tell me what is necessary. I will do everything. So I don't pay attention to everything. The only thing I paid attention to, it was interesting when Medvedev, really probably coming out of a drunken bender, wrote that the Russian leadership is not crazy, that we will never use nuclear weapons. That's what I felt. That yes, it must have gotten scary for them. It just have gotten scary already. And he released such a post. Everything else, look, any appearances by Putin, Medvedev, Narishkin, they have no significance and no meaning. They're all funny people. No, first, they are all international war criminals. And second, they are just funny people. They still open their mouths. They keep on saying something. They're trash. They're trash. They are finished, and their country is finished. Their verdict has already been written and signed by history. They are no longer players, and their country is no longer a player. That's it. The era is over. We'll see it soon. Dmitry, we can't wait to see it. On what Medvedev is saying, we remember this evolution of red lines. Medvedev said that transferring nuclear weapons to Ukraine would be seen as an attack on Russia. One Telegram feed, Kremlin Circus, noted the evolution of red lines. At first they said that NATO should not be allowed to approach Russia's borders. Then, okay, there was a move. Russia's red lines became brown lines a long time ago. As I said, they are brown lines that you can do anything you want with. They were saying, we attacked Ukraine, or not attacked, as Putin said there, a special military operation aimed at denazification and demilitarization of Ukraine.
Территории России можно, но только дронами, ракетами нельзя. Теперь уже, ладно, ракетами тоже можно, но вот ядерное оружие передавать Украине нельзя. И это просто нескончаемый список, насколько еще эта красная линия способна продвинуться. Но это мы начинали с одного, закончили вот ядерным оружием. Что будет дальше?
Красные линии России давно превратились в коричневые. Я об этом сказал выше. Это коричневые линии. Можно делать по отношению к России все. Как они говорили, мы напали на Украину, ну или не напали, значит, Путин же заявил, что специальная военная операция, значит, продиктована целью денацифицировать и демилитаризировать Украину.
Denazification was successful, of course, very successful. If before the ideas of Ukrainian nationalism were inherent only to a minority, now it is the overwhelming majority. All Ukrainian nationalists today, having seen the Russian world, have become even more opposed. Demilitarization? It has also taken place. Ukraine is militarized as never before. It was impossible to even imagine such a thing. Ukraine. Further, we will not allow Ukraine to become a member of NATO on the territory of Ukraine. American military bases were placed. They started the NWO and got themselves 2 new NATO members, Sweden and Finland. Finland is close to Russia in general. 40 kilometers or 100 kilometers. I don't remember exactly, but how much from the Finnish border to Moscow? They started this crusade so that we would not join NATO, so that we would not have a NATO bloc on our borders with Russia. In the end, they got NATO in Finland. They are ridiculous. They failed on all fronts. And about Ukraine's borders, if anyone has forgotten, look carefully. I'm saying this for Russians. Take a close look at the map of Ukraine. Don't get confused. If someone there is into reading the Russian constitution with the amendments about the 4 regions and Crimea, in general, do not harbor illusions. Do not harbor any illusions. You should be holding Kursk.
Никаких иллюзий не питайте. Вам бы Курск удержать.
Вы, пожалуйста, сделайте скриншот.
Make a screenshot of this map of Ukraine, put it on your screensaver, and you will constantly see what Ukraine is and in what borders it exists and will exist. Dmytro, a Bundeswehr general, has warned that Russia is seeking to build up its military power for new aggression. and the head of the special staff for Ukraine at the German Defense Ministry, General Christian Freuding, told reporters in Kiev that Germany sees signs that the Russian army wants to achieve such capabilities to carry out a new aggression, including against a NATO state, before 2029. This is not the first time such statements have been made, but do European countries realize that it is better to pay Ukraine with money and weapons than to pay them with the lives of their soldiers? I think this is obvious. Olga, you have asked a very important question, and I have an important answer to this important question. The opinion of Europe and Europeans has changed a lot before our eyes. Initially, the Europeans, such good burghers from Germany, Austria, and other countries, they said, well, this is war. This is Russia dealing with its colonies. Listen, I want to tell you that for a long time there has been such a geopolitical picture in the world. Spheres of influence. Here is Russia. The sphere of influence, these former Soviet republics, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, leave them alone. They are already with us. They were with us from the beginning. And here are Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Turkmenistan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Ukraine, Moldova, Belarus. These republics, of course, are all Russia's sphere of influence. Give them to Russia. Let it do what it wants with them. Let's stay out of it. It's their personal squabbles, and it's more expensive for us. We will be friends with Russia. We will make money with Russia. This was the European and American part of the theory for many years. And declassified telephone conversations. If you listen to Yeltsin and Clinton back in '95, Yeltsin says, we will close our eyes to what you are doing somewhere in the Indian Ocean, let's say, but you give us Ukraine. This is our sphere of influence. This trend has been common in Europe for a long time, and it was shared by almost all countries except the UK, Poland, Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia. Great Britain is an empire in itself. It understands everything well, and it is a true friend of Ukraine. And Poland, Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia are four countries that were themselves part of the Russian Empire. And Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia were part of the Soviet Empire for another 50 years. Memories of that time, with the NKVD, the KGB, the Iron Curtain, and shortages of everything from food to toilet paper, are alive in the memory, even if those who did not live in those years were told by their grandparents. Therefore, these countries, including Great Britain, Poland, Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia, from the very beginning of the full-scale invasion, well understood that the threat from Russia concerns not only Ukraine, but the entire civilized world and Europe. Because if this beast with the letter Z on its forehead breaks Ukraine, it will go further, because blood beckons, causes excitement and euphoria. He will follow Moldova, Belarus, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, and Estonia to Poland. Today, this situation has become clear, not only to these countries. I would like to say a big thank you to everyone, especially to small Estonia. You know who has given the most financial aid to Ukraine for the army and support? It is Estonia. No other country in the world can compare with Estonia in terms of aid per capita. So thank you to the Estonians. Today the situation has become clear to everyone. It is understood by France and Germany, mostly. Yes, Scholz will be gone soon. What are we going to say about him? A lame duck. I don't want to talk about him. He gives me a bad feeling, just like Merkel. She's the one who raised Putin. It's her fault. And now she is giving interviews, saying that she could not have done it otherwise, that Nord Stream 2 was necessary, that she pacified this beast. They can only give interviews when they do nothing, and if they do, they want to. I will draw a line under this question. I am convinced that Europe has understood everything. It is getting back on its feet, even if not to its full height, but it is already standing up. You can see them. They are already producing a lot of weapons. They realize that they have a responsibility. Trump will put the financial burden of helping Ukraine on them, and they will help, because they have realized the main thing. By helping Ukraine, they are helping themselves. If they don't help, Russia will be unstoppable, and it will eat them after us. NATO is now discussing the possibility of preemptive precision strikes on Russian territory in the event of an armed conflict with Russia. Admiral Rob Bauer, chairman of NATO's military committee, said at a conference in Brussels that it would make more sense not to wait, but to hit Russia's launchers immediately if it attacks us. What is needed is a combination of precision strikes that will disable the systems designed to attack us, and we must strike first. Excuse me, if you'll excuse me. This is a very strong admiral. I want to say a few warm words about the head of the NATO Military Committee. He is Dutch, and he came here to Ukraine at the invitation of Arseniy Yatsenyuk, speaking at a national security forum. I listened to him for about 40 minutes. His speech left a lasting impression with its precise, clear, unambiguous, correct, sharp formulations. Amazing. So looking at him, I was sitting a few meters away from him, listening to him, and I want to tell you, this man will do whatever he says. Handsome, tall, 5'90", in black uniform, with clarity of thought and sobriety of vision. So, about Europe, you asked the question why it won't launch a preemptive strike. But that's wrong. What do you think that sounds like? You and I discussed this on the last stream, that we're waiting for Friedrich Merz to give us TAURUSes and authorization to strike Russian Federation territory. But German Chancellor Olaf Scholz said that the citizens of his country do not support the transfer of long-range AURUS missiles to Ukraine. That does sound like a new excuse for why we aren't being handed the missiles, doesn't it?
Если мы говорим о дальнобойных ракетах, Шольц опять придумал новое оправдание, чтобы не передавать Украине Таурус. Вы слышали, как вы думаете, как оно звучит? То, что мы с вами обсуждали, да, на прошлом стриме, что мы ждем все-таки Фридриха Мерца, который даст нам Таурусы и даст разрешение наносить удары по территории Российской Федерации, но канцлер Германии Олаф Шольц заявил, что граждане его страны не поддерживают передачу Украине дальнобойных ракет Таурус. Это действительно звучит как новое оправдание, почему нам не передают ракеты, не так ли?
Look, I don't want to get nervous and insult Scholz, so I won't talk about him. He is some kind of a shadow of Hamlet's father, pale, indecisive, as Svanetsky said, beaten 100 times by dustbags, so inexpressive, unimpressive, nothing, no charisma, no determination. No Reagan, no Thatcher, no Kohl, no Mitterrand, nothing. It may have been hinted at in the course of our conversation, but we will see it yet, or rather the Russian Federation will feel it.
Обмельчал этот цех. Но ничего. Все идет нормально.
Все идет нормально, и Напоследок скажу, что НАТО приняло резолюцию, почти полностью посвященную Украине. Я думаю, что вы ее видели. Одним из важнейших пунктов является пункт с призывом предоставить Украине ракеты, поражающие цели на 1000-1500, а точнее 5500 километров. Вероятно, имеются в виду ракеты «Томагавк». Возможно, вы об этих ракетах намекали в ходе нашего разговора. Возможно, и нет. Но мы это увидим, а точнее увидит и ощутит Российская Федерация.
Dmitry, I thank you for this conversation. Thank you for your thoughts, the right ones. I will remind you that Dmytro Gordon, the journalist, has been in touch with us. Subscribe to Channel 24. Subscribe to Dmytro Gordon's YouTube channel. Visiting Gordon, we're waiting for your